Good afternoon, people. Welcome back to the Blue Steed for your third episode of the day. We had our Champions League reaction this morning. We've had our transfer special with Mr. Rob Prattley this afternoon, and now we've got some breaking news to dissect with Facundo Buonanotte reportedly joining Chelsea on a straight loan deal from Brighton. I have one of my favourite people in the world, Mr. Jay McIntosh, alongside me. Jay, how are you, my friend?
Do you know what? I genuinely miss your face. Danny texted me
Ah,
yesterday. Danny called me a posh prick yesterday when I was on Sky off, and I said to him, I genuinely miss speaking to the two of you. So we'll have to link up soon. But yeah, good. Slightly confused, albeit excited and mildly enthused because I quite like things like this. So I'm all right with it. Obviously, our Nacho stuff, I presume you've spoken about already. But
yeah.
yeah.
Well, when this broke, and Danny and I said, "Oh, let's get a quick reaction out," and I thought, I know who likes Buonanotte. I just had a feeling that he's somebody that you like, and
Yeah.
yeah, I know you like the wacky and obscure players that not many people are particularly fond of. I mean, I've just done a little bit of research pre-recording, and the the statistics that he's in like top percentiles for are
Yeah.
all defensive based.
Yeah.
He's like top 1% for blocks and stuff like that and headers. He's only like 5'6". It's like we must be signing him to play centre half at this point.
I will say he is also in the top 5% for accurate crosses, and he ranks quite highly for accurate long balls and accurate crosses too. So like he can put the ball in the box, but you are right, it is mental. The stats that really ring out are like he is a fuck. Oh, I don't know if I can swear. Sorry, he
Yeah,
is
you swear, mate. You swear.
he's an incredible tackler. Like he seems to just be a like fine. Um, yeah, I do like the player. I think he's really gifted, man. Like he's so gifted. He's such a talented footballer. And at the moment, I'm struggling to see where the major negative is. I think people are underwhelmed by the lack of positivity, but I don't think that means there has to be an overwhelming sense of negativity towards it. The loan fee is going to be small. There's no obligation to buy, as far as I'm aware. So what's the problem? Like if Cole's going to be injured or whatever happens, we'll have to wait and see. There's no Buonanotte doesn't come in knowing he's going to be a starter. He won't be. But he's a player. Oh man, every time I watch him play, he's just so hungry, and sometimes he drifts out of games and he's ineffective. But he is a young player too. He's 20. I think he'll relish a chance to be at Chelsea, and if it's a position that the club need, and actually. Sorry to sort of jump all over the place. What I'm kind of taking from this is that if Chelsea don't feel as though they can get their primary targets for that position in, then a stopgap for a loan profile player who kind of fits the profile that Chelsea look for, especially in attackers, I don't really see the massive downside to it. Yes, he's a Brighton player, but that kind of doesn't matter to me. He's actually done very well at Leicester. Leicester fan. I was on the phone to a Leicester fan when you asked me to jump on, who was very, very, upbeat about Buonanotte as a player. And he's clearly someone that can be sculpted into a very, very capable attacker. And there is a reason why teams like Dortmund and et al. Are interested in him, because he's a really, really talented footballer. And interestingly, I'm assuming you will have gone to FBref straight away to have a look at his numbers. And when you do that, like, some of the players that profile really similarly to him are players I really like too, like Kara Mitoma, Jude Bellingham's in there, Alexis Claude Maurice at Augsburg as well as a player I really like. So I'm not overly, disheartened by the move. I think, okay, Chelsea, if they've clearly can't get their targets because Simmons has gone to Tottenham, which I'm not as upset as I thought I'd be about that. Then okay, fine. I'd rather Chelsea not splash 45 million on someone else just for the sake of it. A smart loan signing, if it works, then great. If it doesn't work, then okay, fine. He's not going to start. I don't even know. It's going to be really hard for him to cement that place, because we can play João Pedro at 10. You can actually play Enzo at 10 if you want to in certain games. So Buonanotte could come on the wing, or could come on as a 10, or again, a player that, if you bring him on for the final 25 minutes of a fixture, he's going to be a real problem for defenders. So I don't hate it too much. And with his ability to successfully cross the ball, that might be advantageous for someone like Delap to have another player in there whose skill set it sort of leans that way.
Yeah, I'm probably not as enthused as you, but I'm definitely not in the bracket of meltdown like a lot of other people. I think, like you say, we're not panicking into a signing just because we feel like we need a profile. So it's
It's
quite nice.
interesting as well. It's
It's
interesting.
different, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
intrigued by it. I am intrigued. It gives
yeah,
us a year to think about what we want in that position. Obviously, we've got the likes of Payet out on loan or Giovanni Quenda who comes in next summer. And ultimately, what I think it means is out of our 8 attackers, our 8 first team attackers, he's going to be the 8th choice. There's no doubt about that. But
yeah.
ultimately, it means more minutes for the likes of Esteval, more minutes for the likes of Garnacho and Gittins, and it will be
Mate,
sort of a last opportunity would be to play Buonanotte, I think.
for fear of sounding really tragic, I've watched all the full 90s for Strasbourg so far this season. And I actually tweeted about how much I'm enjoying League One as a spectacle. It's just such a fascinating league. Paez the other day was unreal, absolutely unbelievable. Like I got really, really excited and enthused watching him play, to be fair. So shout out to Kendry Paez. I think he's going to have a really good season, and I think him and Quenda is why I'm not that worried about the Buonanotte thing. Like
Yeah,
he's just there to fill a gap, and actually, in terms of someone there to fill a gap, he's more talented than a lot of other players you could conceivably bring in terms of natural ability. He's one of those players that he might never put up those sort of gunman numbers, but his natural ability is really high. Like his natural technical ability to play football is really, really high. So as you say, an 8th choice, he's essentially in my head. He sort of fills the Tyreek George space.
yeah, exactly
Also,
that. And
Roma for George.
yeah,
Class.
I like it. I like it a lot. The thing that I like with the Buonanotte move is that he fits the bill of what we look for in players. He's
Yeah.
young, he's enthusiastic, he's energetic. Clearly, from his defensive numbers, he's a hard worker. So I don't mind it. People won't like the name. People won't like the fact we're loaning from Brighton. I understand it. On initial reflection, I didn't like it. The more I thought about it, the more I understand it. I've got a bit of a wild conspiracy that I chucked out on the Substack for Size Site a little while ago, which I wonder now if we're using this as an opportunity to save some money in that area of the field and potentially strengthening the defensive area. Maybe we look at a centre back in the last couple of days of the window if there's a plausible deal. But
But
overall,
yeah.
we're not rushing into spending money for no reason, which is I see it as a good thing. And if we can get a centre back or a goalkeeper out of it, which I think is unlikely at this stage, then it makes it an even better deal. But like you say, I think just a straight loan, no option, no obligation, no ties to it. There's not too many issues with it, really, is there?
No, and like I will say, we're as Chelsea fans, not to be more subjective than objective, and I tried to lean more objectively than most Chelsea fans, but I think there's a pervading sense of Chelsea spend frivolously. That's the narrative because Chelsea spend a lot, and I think a lot of that is just online point scoring. But I think a substantial portion of that narrative feeds into, I guess, a quote unquote mainstream media narrative. I actually think a lot of football narratives now in mainstream media come from the sort of social space rather than it being the other way around. I think transfer news is the one that impacts that sort of mainstream impact the social, but I actually think the narrative social then reflects onto the mainstream. And the narrative is always that Chelsea spend frivolously. And I don't actually think that's the case. I think if you were to take a really bigger picture look at it, what's happened post-Roman and how much things have had to change because of the completely unique circumstances the club found themselves in, and then also the new owners getting things completely wrong to start with and having to then go again on a version 2. I don't think Chelsea spend because they can. They may spend frivolously in the sense they spend a lot, but Chelsea look for market opportunity. And if they don't feel as though that opportunity at the level they're after is there in the sense of Simmons because he opted to go to Tottenham, and I'm sure we'll get more details as to why, but it's more likely that he's a guaranteed starter at Spurs, whereas he's not at Chelsea, which is kind of crazy to say. Obviously could be and should be, but he can't walk into that first team in the way that he will do at Tottenham, especially with Maddison out for so long. So I think it goes against that narrative that Chelsea spend for the sake of it. Chelsea clearly can't find the right market opportunity, so I've gone for what I think is a very intelligent loan and no real strings attached, and will buy their time to wait for Pires and Quenda to come in next season. So I'm not that fussed about it. Like, his wages won't be that high. Like, it is whatever. And also, like, you know, I think people are also like, why Brighton? Why do we always go to Brighton? But very few of the people we've got from Brighton haven't worked.
Yeah.
Don't really see it as an issue. It doesn't bother me that we get players from there. It's fine. Like,
But
if
it's
anything,
also,
it's a trusted place to get players.
but it's also like, if you was going to go and buy a car from somebody you don't know, or go and buy a car from somebody you do know, you're going to go buy it from somebody you do know because you're going to have more information on it. You're going to know how it was driven, when
Yeah.
it was tested, etc., etc.
And-
We've got a lot of Brighton staff, so we're going to have a lot more info on a Buonanotte than we would on a, I don't know, somebody like off the top of my head.
Who's the lad at Monaco, Alacuce or Akiluce?
Yes, that's the one. Yeah,
yeah, like,
yeah. You're going to have more info on him
and
because
also
of the situation.
And also, it's the same with Garnacho. Why I'm okay with, well, as you know, I'm actually quite positive about the Garnacho move, which I know is a little bit unpopular. But as I said on Sai's podcast, or our podcast a few weeks ago, Kieran Maguire released the research that suggested that Bundesliga attackers outside of Roberto Firmino, on average in their time in the Premier League, see a 34% decrease in their goal output compared to what they get in Germany. So Simmons, I think, let's say, for example, he got around 20 goals and assists last season. I think it was just under. Like, if he loses a third of that, he's going to be on around 12, 13, 14. That's fine, but is 12 goals and assists in the Premier League £60 million? I don't know. That's if he were to follow the trend. There's no reason why he can't buck the trend like someone like Firmino, and I think at Tottenham he'll do very well. But Buonanotte is also, he's cut his teeth in the Championship and the Premier League and battled for minutes, and he's 20. It's not like he's had it an easy way, and it's not like he's a stranger to the league and the system and the physicality of the space. You know, I'm a big fan of the Championship. I think some people now think the Championship's not as good as it used to be, but I disagree. I think it's simply that the Premier League finances means that the yo-yo positions are a little bit harder to find your way out of. But again, bigger picture, last 10 years, maybe 15 years, Wolves have stayed up and become a mainstay. Bournemouth stayed up and become a mainstay. Brentford stayed up and become a mainstay. Brighton came in and smashed it. It's not unheard of that teams stay up and then become a real staple. And Buonanotte has cut his teeth in England. And as we know, the gap between the Premier League and the other leagues is getting wider. And the difficulty to adapt to these leagues is becoming slightly greater, in my opinion. You know, and there are players that obviously buck that trend and players that fall in line with that trend. Liverpool are a good example. I think Wirtz will take more time than Ekitike to adapt to the Premier League. But I think with Buonanotte, like we say, no real strings attached. 8th attacker, says to me that George is going to head out, so that's okay. Not going to waste money where they don't need to waste money. And if he turns out to be a real gem and he gets some decent minutes, then maybe Chelsea buy him. Who knows? But I think that's very unlikely because he's simply a very smart, I think, stopgap for Pires and Quenda. And actually, I do wonder, because you, Luke, you've been a little bit more critical than not critical, because that's maybe too harsh, but a little bit more cautious about the quality of Tyreek George. And I think actually, as a natural football player, Buonanotte is a more gifted natural player than someone like George. And if he were to say have played in George's role and get the same minutes of George, I would be minded to think that he would have got similar numbers. So, you know, I'm okay with it. I think it's fine. I don't see why we need to go in real meltdown. I think the meltdown is simply a reflection of Chelsea fans feeling as though they've been big brothered by Tottenham, which I don't think is necessarily the case. I think Xavi Simons' team around him have potentially made a smarter move for the sake of the player's career. Tottenham is a place that you don't find.
At the end of the day, if Chelsea could have had, if Chelsea wanted Xavi Simons, they could have had him. They clearly chose not to pursue the deal. So I'm okay with it. And I think a lot of people are going to look at it as, oh, we've chosen Buonanotte over Simons. That's not the case.
No.
We wasn't convinced on the player, especially Maresca. From everything we're hearing, wasn't fully convinced on the player. Therefore, we pulled the plug on the deal. We're going to do a smart move and get Buonanotte on loan. It gives more minutes to the rest of our attackers. The thing that I hate when you sign a player, everybody's like, "Where's he going to play?" Not every player is signed to start. Some players are
Yeah.
signed as a backup or as a squad player, and he's going to be the eighth attacker at a push. He'll play a few minutes here and there. I don't think we'll see him too often. And
No.
it wouldn't surprise me if we ended up not playing him too much over the first half of the season and getting recalled or something along those lines. But for a 20-year-old to have had 85 senior games in the UK already for Leicester and
Yeah.
Brighton at 20 years age, it's not a bad deal. Like it's just not that bad. So yeah, I
It's not,
think
mate.
it's
Like, 7 goals and assists in 14 starts is, again, not dreadful. And I think the way that Chelsea play is probably more in line with his style of football. The one thing I will say, the one stat besides the tackle numbers that stood out to me the most, he gets a lot of yellow cards. He gets so many yellow cards, but it's
yes.
actually nuts. I think he got 8 yellow cards in 14 starts last year. Like, he actually hates not being on a booking. He likes to feel something. So we'll see what happens there. And like you say, I'm not. If it turns out that he doesn't get the minutes and gets recalled, then he gets recalled. I don't think Brighton are going to be in any rush to recall him. If they thought that he was going to be a useful part of their team, he'd be there. So he's not. But Brighton also know he's an asset that will hold and gain value. And Chelsea are a place, I think you can say now, where players come and get better. I don't think many players have come to Chelsea recently and got worse. I think you can look all around the team and point to players that have actually got better on better year on year. So that's quite promising for me, and I'm okay with it. I have no problem. I mean, even, not that it wouldn't have happened with Simmons, but even sort of culturally, he's Argentinian, so it's nice to have the communication with Enzo. It's nice to have the communication with Caicedo as well. Obviously, he'll be able to partner up and talk with Cucurella, and Maresca will be able to have that sort of more honest channel. And let's not. Did he play under Maresca at Leicester?
No. He was only at Leicester last season.
Last season, okay. But yeah, I think it's fine. And like you say, as an 8th choice, he's not the replacement for Simmons. Clearly, what the club are doing are thinking João Pedro will just go 10 if Palmer can't. So fine.
Yeah.
And Garnacho, I mean, I'm very interested to see Garnacho. I don't know when he's going to play. It obviously won't be against Fulham, but maybe in the following week. I'm really intrigued to see how that goes. But yeah, we'll see. It's fine.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. Well, we'll wrap it on that. No need to melt down. People can chill, and we will be back again with the review of the Fulham game on Monday. So we will catch you all on the flip side.
Peace.